Get ready for the Squawking Eagles podcast.
Hello, and welcome back to the Squawking Eagles podcast. I'm Mike, and I'm joined by Miguel. Maybe we'll have Mark later on, but we'll see. But right now, it's just me and Miguel. How's it going, buddy?
The emotionally damaged podcast is what we should change this podcast to.
Yeah.
What a week it's been.
Yeah, it's been a week. One of probably the worst weekends I've had in recent memory. I've had a death in the family and a funeral, and so it's been and then Eagles losing. It's been a tough few days. You know,
it has.
we were supposed to have a post-game podcast with our in-game reactions, and I just haven't had the heart and the drive to listen to you and Mark's reactions to it. And because I know what my reactions were, and I've spent this whole year with you and Mark. I kind of can guess of what it's going to be like, and so we'll get to it. I think I'll edit it and put it up, but no one's really rushing to listen to it anyway, I'm sure.
No, I definitely don't want to hear my roller coaster of emotions during that whole game.
Right.
It was a hurtful situation, especially being that in the podcast before the Super Bowl was played. I was telling Mark how proud I was, how confident he carried us through this whole season. His confidence was carried us. And then, like a scolded dog, the Eagles just go out there and, they play sufficiently enough to not be angry at them, at the team in general. But
right.
still, that Tampa Bay feeling, that Carolina feeling, that those losses, this is like the worst loss in history for me. Emotionally, like all week I have not been the same. I know, Mike, you said you had a death in the family, and I'm sorry for you and your family. My condolences. But it's felt like that all week for me. It felt like my best friend died, or somebody broke up with me, and I didn't have a reason why. And I just felt all week, I just felt guilty. Just how it's weighed so heavy on me, this loss.
I know.
It's funny that I'm looking back on it now, but going through this whole week, I have just been so down.
I know it's weird. It's a weird feeling. It's a weird, state that we were in, because we were so confident. Mark was, had us kind of elevated all over the, during the year. He goes, you and I definitely have wavered on the Eagles during the year. I'm a big you're a big Jags fan. I'm a big Colts fan now. It's like, right. But Mark never did. Mark stayed with it the whole year. He was right there. And he really got me, like, the Eagles, they got this. They have this Super Bowl. Right. In the first two quarters, they did. They had the Chiefs right where they wanted them. Like, Jalen Hurts put on a Super Bowl MVP caliber game.
Yeah.
And they let the game slip through their hands, literally, like fumbles and
as you say that, I had the NFL Network on. They just showed Jalen's fumble.
There it is. That if that fumble doesn't happen, those are 7 points that the Eagles gifted to the Chiefs.
Yeah.
Those 7 points are on the board. Then we're not sitting here talking about this loss. We're here in joy. It's a joy to be talking about an Eagles Super Bowl victory.
Yeah.
And now we're going to discuss, where do the Eagles go from here? This loss is going to, sit with them for, till next season starts in 200 and some 8 days,
Yeah.
And the countdown is on. Everybody's seen the photos of Boston Scott pulling his best Stephon Diggs impersonation, where he's standing there watching the confetti fall. He's a free agent next year. Miles Sanders, a free agent. Gardner
Bradbury,
Johnson, Bradbury, Fletcher
Kazan,
Cox, Brandon
Kazir White.
Graham, Kazan White, Sue, Lionel Joseph, if we want to even go like that far. Miles Sanders. Like there's a 18 player list of free
Yeah.
agents, I think. And all of them on that list were vital keys to the success of the Eagles this season. And it's going to be interesting to see what Howie can do.
Yeah. I mean, some of those names I'm willing to let go. Sue and the other
Joseph.
guy that they signed. I
Joseph.
forget his name. Joseph. They're going to be gone. We already know that.
Yeah.
But here's something shocking that I heard on the radio this week that helped me cope with the Eagles' loss. Well, it didn't help. It angered me more. The fact that Jonathan Gannon did not rotate the defensive line like he was rotating throughout the year. Fletcher Cox, Brandon Graham, most of the starters on that defensive line play 82% of the snaps. They did not have that rotation going on the defensive line.
Yeah, it
And
doesn't make sense.
that hurt us. Like you saw everybody was slipping and sliding. Okay, maybe you rotate and you don't have that slippage from the next guy. I mean,
Right.
the field was shitty, and I don't know if you know about that field. It took them 8 years to grow that field. That
Really?
field has been in the works for 8 years, and for it to be that shitty of a field, there's no excuse. The NFL should not have a field that slippery for a Super Bowl. You should not be trying out in a new turf at the Super Bowl. Period.
Yeah. Period.
These players should be playing on the field that they're accustomed to, and
Yeah.
that was the reason a lot of the Hassan Reddick couldn't get grip on his little bends trying to get around the edge of the tackle. Couldn't get there in time.
It changed the game.
Yeah.
And granted, they were, both teams were playing on the same field. And look, Eagles with 70 sacks, they didn't have one sack. And the one sack that the Chiefs had, it was because Jalen Hurts ran out of bounds behind the line of scrimmage. That was the only sack of the game. That's hard to believe that the field would change a defensive approach so drastically.
Yeah,
it was a drastic change.
It played a huge impact.
It did, and I also have a complaint is that they do this every year. Is they put these large logos on the field where during the year normally there is no logo. Why do they do that? Why don't they just put it around that area, above where they usually run? Like, why put it exactly where people are going to be playing most of the game? It's not. We all know what the logo is. We all know who's playing. We all know what this is, the Super Bowl 58. We don't need to have the logo in the middle of the field where people are going to be planting their feet and trying to get a good grip on when running on that field. It makes zero sense.
Yeah. No, yeah, you're right, Mike. I mean, they got that logo because it looks good for the camera.
Right.
I don't know if you listen to the Kelsey podcast, the New Heights podcast, but even Travis said that there were certain sections of the field where they filled it with sand and then they spray painted it green.
Oh, geez.
That's how shitty the field was.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. I didn't hear it. Again, I've been listening to the New Heights podcast, and their podcast has been pretty an amazing accomplishment they've done. They're number one in all these categories, and that's something for us to look forward to and wanting to be that big. But I couldn't listen to their Super Bowl podcast. I haven't been able to listen to it because I don't like Travis Kelce anymore. I don't like his face. I don't like his voice. I don't like anything about the dude right now. And so I couldn't listen to it or watch it. I just couldn't.
No, I understand, Mike. I listened to it. It was an emotional one. Jason got emotional. But at the same time, he's proud of his brother, and I'll be just as proud of my brother. I would hate him, but
right, yeah,
just for that brief moment of time for beating me. But I take my hats off to both of those guys. They're great competitors. They're great brothers. They set a great example for the NFL and for the youth. but they, they didn't. Travis didn't go too hard on Jason, so it's not as bad as you think it would be. But
Yeah.
he did go buck wild at the parade,
Yeah.
and I think they had something else at an after party where he did the stanky leg again.
Yeah, I love that stanky leg.
Yeah,
That's old
no, I
school,
didn't
I
love that stanky leg.
assume, right?
Yeah.
If we can discuss the game a little bit.
Mhm.
There's some of the play calls that Shane Steichen called. It was repetitive. Like, wouldn't you say there was a lot of RORs that Jalen would not to hand the ball off, but then would run himself more often than not? Like, and not they didn't work all the time. Like, they were ready for it. And so, where was the adjustment there? Like, where was his thinking? What do you think from that?
In the big game, Shane Steichen kind of got out coached.
Yeah.
The Chiefs made adjustments to things that were successful for us earlier in the season that they weren't in the Super Bowl. I think Shane Steichen got away from the running game a lot. It didn't help that Miles Sanders wasn't really giving us yards. I think he had 17 total yards.
Yeah.
Jalen was carried most of our running game. Now, then again, we have to apply this to the turf as well. These running backs, have to change their cleats multiple times to try to find the right grip, and they weren't able to. And Jalen had to do what Jalen does. And I told you guys on the last podcast, if we lose this game, it's not going to be because of Jalen. Jalen should have been MVP, even though we lost. How about that?
Yeah, his
He should have
numbers
been.
were out of sight.
He threw for 300, almost 300 yards, or just about 300 yards.
Yeah.
And he had 3 touchdowns. I mean, come
Yeah.
on. I mean, we pretty much rode his back. We had that Quez Watkins drop that hurt us. The play call that they challenged after we already hiked the ball and they brought it back and then they overturned it and said it wasn't a catch. It was just so many things in that game that I've never seen in any NFL game I've ever seen.
You're right.
Like, it was outrageous of the things that they were calling, not calling, and then the field on top of that. So
yeah. Well, look, Devontae Smith set a record. The first player ever to have 100+ receiving yards in the Super Bowl and national championship game. That's pretty impressive. They set records. Like, the Eagles set records. Jalen Hurts set a record, but the Eagles as an offense set a record with most plays for a scoring drive. Like, they were on a roll. And they
17, right?
17 plays in a scoring drive. Granted, it's ended in a field goal, which that should have probably not been a field goal. It should have been a touchdown. But
yeah, no, that was a key. Even Travis Kelce said it in the New Heights podcast before the game. Yeah. It's like whoever doesn't put 7 on the board they're not going to win. It's not going to be a touchdown type. It's not going to be a field goal type game. It's going to be touchdowns.
Yeah, I didn't foresee the Chiefs putting up that many amount of points against the Eagles defense the way they did. And I hate, I don't want to, I'm not crying because of the field. I'm not crying because, but it's that Jonathan Gannon was completely out-coached by Andy Reid. Like, Andy Reid's game plan with Eric Bieniemy dictated the second half of that game.
It sure did.
Plain and simple.
It sure did.
Plain and simple.
It's like the Eagles were like, hey, everything's going perfect at halftime. Let's just keep it all the same and let's see what happens. And you can't do that with Andy Reid. I mean, we thought Andy Reid was going to come in here and try to throw it all over us, and he switched it up on us and decided to run the ball all over us.
Yeah.
Slay in his post Super Bowl podcast even came out and said that Andy Reid started the game a certain way, and then he saw that we were reacting to something, and he switched back to what was working for them throughout the season.
Right,
and
it worked.
There was no adjustments made to their adjustments on our side. So
right.
I mean, what can you do at that point?
Nothing. There's nothing you can do. Well, there is. You could have realized what they were doing and
Yeah.
changed your game plan as well. And
Yeah.
so that hurts. That's not.
There was the one play, I forget which one it was off the top of my head, but it was a scoring drive that the Chiefs ran a play that the Jacksonville Jaguars ran on us and scored as well. They
Right.
used the same exact play and we still got beat by the play. So that just goes to show you Jonathan Gannon didn't learn anything from the season and how to counteract
Right.
that play. And
Right.
that was a little disappointing to hear.
Yeah, I would say that's definitely a disappointing thing because I would have liked to see Jonathan Gannon maybe change his game plan and maybe blitz a little bit more.
Yeah.
But because Patrick Mahomes was injured. He was not full 100%. And especially after that hit, and he was on the sidelines, and he was in a lot of pain.
Tell me they didn't give him a needle at halftime. Because that guy going into halftime limped into the fucking tunnel and then came out like it was nothing. Like they filled him up with a animal adrenaline or something. I don't know.
I know. They said there was this fake tweet that went out saying that they would give him PEDs in the locker room in that half hour. I don't see, again, the half hour show, it was a half hour halftime show. It was a half hour long,
Yeah.
There's all kinds of stuff they could have done. Cortisone, who knows? But I don't think anybody will ever know what happened. So I'm just sad. I'm sad that the Eagles didn't put up a better fight in the second half than they did in the first half.
Yeah, I mean, well, we kept the ball away from them the first half. We killed them in time of possession. Second half came out, we couldn't. We ourselves didn't get the ball. They took the ball away from us for the second half.
Yeah.
And when that happens, man, we can't afford to be punting and having punt returns almost be scores. We knew special teams was a key weakness for us this season, and
right.
it bit us in the biggest moment that we needed it. And it's just overall, it's just a disappointing feeling. I see it in the players' faces. I hear it in their comments. Jalen in the post game, he was almost brought to tears because you know what this meant for his legacy, and I felt for him. We all wanted the best possible scenario for him to win this game, and the way the game ended with that penalty, that Bradbury hold, it was a hold, but in that part of the game, you don't call something like that. The referees should swallow their whistles and allow the players to play the game and let it finish out the way it's going to be.
Right.
You call that hold, and it gave them a whole new fresh set of downs, and they run the clock out, and that's it. We never get the ball back. I truly believe if we would have stopped them there, we would have had at least about 50 seconds left on the clock.
Mm-hmm.
I believe Jalen would have took us down, and we would have drove, and we would have scored, and that would have been how the game ended. And unfortunately, we didn't get that opportunity because of the ref took it out of our hands.
Yeah, they did. He did. The ref, again, we shouldn't possibly, there's people online saying that we shouldn't have been in that place to begin with, that, the referees, shouldn't have been part of that, and it would have never happened. But, granted, it did happen. And so we put the referees, we put ourselves in the referee's hands, and, that play call where Bradbury said he pulled his jersey. And so we got to go with what he said. Okay, he pulled his jersey. Now, if you look at the rules, you're able to do that within 5 yards, and as long as it doesn't impede the direction of the player's pursuit of the ball. So the ball was thrown. It was thrown out of bounds. It wasn't uncatchable. It did not impede him in any way, and the flag was thrown after the ball had landed. The ball had landed out of bounds, and he threw the penalty flag.
Yeah, well, it was to me, I felt like it was a makeup call. Bradbury got away with a hold earlier in the game that was way more dramatic than that last one. So I feel like the refs owed Kansas City a makeup call, and they decided to call it on that play, which is shameful.
Yeah, it was. It was. I mean, it's always hard to swallow when the referee is gonna have to be part of making the call and making the decision of that game, and you don't want the referees to be involved that much. And
But
sadly, the Eagles.
it's not even just the referees. I mean, we talked about it earlier. That challenge call. How do you run a play and still be able to challenge it? That's not a call by the NFL. Like, the NFL didn't make that call. Like, you took 5 minutes. So to me, it wasn't clear. Y'all decided to look at it for 5 minutes and then made the call. So
Right.
I don't know. Like, I hate to be pointing the finger of blame and saying the field, the refs, or whatever, but overall, like, I still give credit. Congratulations to Kansas City. They played a hell of a game. But we beat ourselves, and just like the three losses that we had, well, except for the which is the worst loss of our season, the Saints one.
The Saints game, yeah, that was
Yeah,
pretty
except for
bad
the
loss.
Saints one, we beat ourselves.
Yeah, I don't. We're left with now, what ifs, all these what ifs. What if we called a different play? What if we made, we kept Mahomes off the field longer? What if this? What if that? I don't know. I don't know what it's going to be like now that this off season is going to bring. This off is going to bring a lot of changes because look, we lost an offensive coordinator. We lost a defensive coordinator. Do we hire from within? Do we hire from without? Like, there's a lot of questions now, and I'm
Yeah.
not sure. I'm not sure where we go from here. What do you think?
Well, I think they already filled the OC coordinator position. I think they're just going to elevate the quarterbacks coach to OC. So I forget his name. I think his last name is Johnson.
Brian Johnson.
Brian Johnson. Rumor has it that they're looking for an experienced OC coordinator to come in. Lovie Smith is the name I've heard so far thrown out there, which isn't too bad. He's one of the best defensive minds that are out there in the NFL. Wouldn't mind having him. But change is good, Mike. This loss hurts, and it's going to be a while before I can get over it.
Right.
But bringing in a new OC, bringing in a new defensive coordinator, I think it's going to be great because you need to refresh your look in the NFL every season. You can't come in with the same plays and allow defenses to look at past seasons and determine what you're going to do already,
Right.
So let's hope that they take into consideration, a bunch of candidates and get the best one out there. I knew they were going to try to get Vic Fangio, and then they brought him aboard during the postseason to help
analyze or stuff like that.
analyze defense and stuff like that. Then he got taken to, I believe, Denver. But
the Dolphins. I think he went to the Dolphins. Didn't he go to the Dolphins?
Dolphins. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. But some of these players are, we're gonna have to let go with a fresh look. I think, in my opinion, Miles Sanders is done as an Eagle. Don't know where he goes from here, but I don't see us paying top dollar for somebody that only got 17 yards in the Super Bowl. Sorry, Miles. I loved you with what you did in the season. You really, stepped up and proved yourself in the contract year, but really let us down when we needed you most. But I wish you luck in wherever you land.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, I'm agree.
Yeah.
I'm a Miles Sanders fan, and I think we're just going to have to say goodbye because, to tell you the truth, I kind of liked what Kenny Gainwell brought to the team when he was in there, and I'm a big Boston Scott fan. So I wouldn't be opposed to just having those two guys and bringing in another rookie running back and see where it goes from there. Definitely not a high draft pick rookie running back, but definitely a rookie.
No,
I would
well,
say.
I like I said, I always have the NFL Network in the background here, and I just seen somebody just posted a mock draft where they have us taking the running back from Alabama at 31.
Wow. Yeah. See, I'm not ready for that. I don't think that's not the best choice. I think a running back in this, the second or third round might be a good choice, but I don't think so early like that. There's more holes to fill. We'll run another mock draft, probably 3 more by the draft day, and so we'll have an idea of where we're going with our next draft pick.
Yeah. Well, I mean, combine's right around the corner. I mean, March 2nd to the 5th, like so.
Yeah, very close, and we'll see what Howie can do and what's going to happen.
Yeah.
So yeah, well, that's a whole other podcast. We have our draft podcast on the horizon, where I think we're going to have a few fans come on and join us for the draft. Maybe we'll do a draft watch along or something. That might be cool. I know Nat wants to come on and talk about the draft. He wants to talk about the upcoming season, so we'll bring him back on.
Hey, Nat, this message is for you. Dak Prescott, that's the closest he's going to get to a Super Bowl field, my friend. I'm going to tell you that right now.
How about that? He's getting an award for doing great humanitarian things in the
he gets booed.
Football. He gets booed. Like that was like, my kids were like, why is he getting booed? I was like, because he's a Cowboy. That's why he's getting booed.
Exactly.
62% of the fans in the stadium were Eagles fans. That was great.
Yeah, no, that's another thing that they said that Kelsey said on the New Heights podcast. Jason was like, he thought that the first night, Monday night, when they had the media day, he said he came out and all he saw was like a sea of red in front of him. So he thought there was going to be nothing but Kansas City fans. And then when he turned around and saw the Eagles fans behind him, he was pleasantly surprised. Travis Kelsey even said during the Super Bowl, it was definitely a Philadelphia home game because how loud the fans were.
For sure. And rightfully so, because the last time the Eagles played, and they played week 3 or 4, I guess I can't remember what it was. And it was an away game. It was a home away game, and the Eagles fans, they travel well.
Yes, we do.
So
good thing Mark didn't spend the money for that ticket to go to the Super Bowl.
Can you imagine?
Oh man!
I haven't told anybody, but I got a line of credit to purchase Super Bowl memorabilia for this year, and didn't have to use it. Saved me some money.
Oh, Mike, it's funny now, but if you would have told me that joke on Monday, I would have been really pissed off.
I know. I saved it.
Oh man.
Now, this, we could put the Super Bowl behind us. I think maybe I'll still be thinking about it for maybe a couple more weeks, but we're going to have to move on. This year, we look at Eagles made it to the Super Bowl. You and I did not see the Eagles make it to the Super Bowl this year. Right? We didn't. None of it.
How poetic that we start the season, starting a podcast, just you and I, just talking Eagles football.
Yep.
Not thinking that we're gonna have this incredible season in front of us, and now we close, unfortunately, with a loss, and just you and I.
Just you,
Mark. We miss you, but
right.
Yeah,
you couldn't have scripted that, right? You could not have scripted that the way it went, and it's been a really great ride. Miguel, I really appreciate you coming on and making room in your schedule. I know how with your work and everything, it's been been great to juggle it around and get you on the podcast. It's been an honor. And hey, we've been, I've known you for a long time. We were just talking about that, and there's years where we weren't communicating, and it was great to be able to just jump in with you and start talking again as if we had never skipped a beat. And it's been really a great ride, and I appreciate you. Thank you.
Mike, and like I said before, I thank you for asking me to be a part of the pod. I really had a good time being a part of it. Nothing like talking about Eagles football with somebody that you've known for years.
Yeah.
So thank you again, and I look forward to the many episodes that we're going to be doing.
Yeah, I'm really excited of where we are going with this. The growth online has been just so appreciative and so amazing to watch and to witness, and our growth as a podcast, like where what we've been to be able to discuss and how we've been able to discuss it with between the three of us. Even though we had like a Nat on or some other people who were definitely involved with the podcast who have kind of come and gone, but the solid three that we've had, it's been really great, and I've been really, really pleased and happy with how it's been going, and I'm excited for our next season of our podcast.
Yeah, definitely. I'd like to give a quick shout out to my brother Chris. I know he's watching on the live right now. Thank you for the video that you put out. It got over 11,000 views, but unfortunately, TikTok took the sound off of it. But it was a great video. It'll live in my phone forever.
Yep.
So, thank you, Chris, for being a part of the podcast from behind the scenes. And to everybody that supported us, thank you. Continue to spread the word, continue to support us, and look for bigger, better things for next season.
It's coming. There's more to come, and there's more growth, and I'm excited for where we're going to take this place. And I'm glad you're along for the ride.
Yeah, same here, Mike.
So if you want to follow us on Instagram, it's at Squawking Eagles Podcast. Over on Twitter, at Squawking Eagles. On TikTok, Squawking Eagles Podcast. And, of course, here on YouTube, Squawking Eagles Podcast. Mike, that's Miguel. Thank you for listening.
Go Birds. EAGLES.
Go Birds.
Till next season.
See you next season.